This is Liban Opande, who is acting host on behalf of my good brother, Dr. Okari, who will be joining us shortly. We also have other guests who will be coming in and joining us. The discussion today is really about the diaspora, analysis about the events going on back in Kenya, and more specifically from lawyers who are both well versed in the situation in Kenya as well as here in the diaspora, uh, and have their views as well as perhaps suggested solutions to some of the challenges that are happening on the ground. And we hope that all of you will enjoy the discussion and enrich ourselves as we try to figure out what is the Kenya that we deserve. Again, my name is Liban Opande. I'm an attorney here in the US. I'm also the president of the Kenya US Bar Association. These are Kenyan American lawyers who practice and work. With that, I would want to invite my first guest. My first guest is attorney Nzilani Wambua. And I see you. Welcome, Nzilani.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Zelani. And Zelani is based in DC area. She's a human rights lawyer, among many other things that she does. And she's going to talk about herself, introduce herself, and we can please introduce yourself.
Uh, Good afternoon, everyone, or evening, everyone from wherever you're watching from. It's such an honor and privilege for me to join this discussion again. Thank you so much to OVC for inviting me. My name again is Nzilani June Wambua, Kenyan born and raised, relocated to the US a few years ago. And currently, I live in the District of Columbia, and that's why.
Asante. Thank you very much, Zelani. I don't want to guess that you are a Gen Z. I'll wait for you to confirm if that is the case. And I'm only saying that because Gen Z has been at the center of what's going on back in Kenya. And what has brought up about this discussion here today. You mentioned you were born and raised in Kenya and then you relocated here. So perhaps you also do have a good perspective of what the Gen Zs are saying, what they're asking for, what they're demanding, because you're one of them maybe, and you lived through what they are living through maybe. Is that something you can kind of highlight a little
So
bit?
I'm not gonna call myself a Gen Z. I'm a few years removed from there, but nonetheless, yes, I relate and I can identify with what they're going through. Simply what they're asking for or the demands that they're putting are the same demands that we've had from the inception of Kenya when our leaders formed the country, when we got independence. It's the same things that we've been asking for all along up until this
Mhm.
time that has gotten to the boiling point, and it just had to be a point that we have to change, and we've had enough. And the government or the governance that has been there before, they come in, the same issues are presented, that are talked about, the same issues are over and over analyzed, but the implementation whereby they can help our country is where there's been a huge disconnect. Um, Kudos to Gen Z really for saying that enough is enough, and for standing up and actually requesting. I'm gonna say it's a strong request that change has to be done. We don't want to be told the same story we've heard, things that we've seen, and therefore we're
Mhm.
asking. Really, we're not asking for anything new. We're just asking for the same values that govern Kenya to be honored both by our leaders and us as the citizens.
And so now you sit here as a diasporian, and maybe you're in some kind of comfort zone. You have food and really may not be in the streets of Nairobi or Mombasa or Eldoret or in Kenya basically. Um, so in terms of the diaspora, what do you feel you as a diasporian ought to do? as far as this movement, I would call it, is in Kenya by the diasporian.
So, as I think of your question, I think it's twofold, right? There is part of people that would say the people in the diaspora are out of touch, right?
Right.
We've lived Maju for so long, and sometimes we tend to think the way things work in the countries that we live, we tend to want to copy and paste in our home country, knowing that there are challenges there as every developing country would have challenges. So sometimes I don't like sounding like, it's hard to not sound like I'm out of touch because I'm not on the ground. I'm not the one directly being impacted. So, what I would suggest for us diasporans is just we need to be more involved and also more in touch with what's going
Mhm.
on. We can just sit from which I sit from a very privileged place, right?
Right.
I'm not even out there raising the flag or anything. I just can't, well, just do it, or the US does it like this, why don't we just do it like that? That's not something that we need to be talking about, but we need to also say we're educated, we've seen the light, so why don't we educate people more, engage more in civil action and civil engagement? There's something that the diaspora has done. Every time we get to the place of self-actualization, we find that we give back, which is what we've done. We've really engaged in the economy, we've given back, set up colleges and all those things, which, if you ask me, it's not our job really to help the government. Those are things that government should have in place. And when the diaspora helps, the government needs to be accountable as to what the allocation or the funds that were supposed to either fund those programs where it went to. But now I'm asking the diaspora really more to get involved with civil engagement. However, we can educate, however, we can interpret these laws, however, to have everybody understand what's going on with taxation, with governance, with the way the government is run. I think we need to be more involved from that point of view. The
Do you
passion that
think
I'm
that the
asking
diaspora
for,
do you think the diaspora is doing it? Do you think the diaspora is fully engaged and
I
is
don't think it's
fully
fully
involved?
engaged. I do know that some people are engaged, but I don't think it's fully engaged because we also lived in an era where politics are not a welcome topic. We talk about politics. We're a little bit, hands off on the politics. We don't want to offend people. We don't want to show our opinions or whatever the case. But I do think there is a more reasonable and level-headed way that we can engage in civil engagement. And what if we were to hold town hall meetings and teach people, especially people who don't have access to all the information and technology? Why don't we tell them it's we interpret according to the understanding of the law that we have, so that people can at least be on
Mhm.
the same even playing field when we go vote or we go present our own needs or when we're asking for issues to be met. We're not just saying from a herd mentality, but we come from a mentality where we've done our research, we've kind of understood what's going on, and then we can bring different perspectives to it. I think the diaspora needs to be a little bit more engaged when it comes to civil engagement, more than the economy else.
No, yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You can finish your thought.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes it may be because of the logistical, uh, uh, issues. I mean, we are continents away, and so therefore, the level of engagement may not be as involved as it just. Again, there's also technology that is, communication that has opened up in the recent years. That things now. I mean, people here in the diaspora get something that happens in the village, almost instantaneously because someone will send a picture or a video or post on their IG or whatever the case. So we sort of with them as things happen. However, the or the I mean, it's one thing to be informed of what's going on back in Kenya, but it's another thing to do something about it. And that's where I'm trying to figure out, are we diasporians doing enough? I mean, we're informed, we know what happened in the village, but then what do we do? as diasporians, and we are a critical component as stakeholders in the country. Of course, well known for remittances, but there's more to that, and so that's the question is, are we as engaged as we ought to be? And I think that's something that every diasporian needs to ask themselves. Now, I want to ask you something that I found to be quite profound in how it was received or perceived, and I want, with something almost similar that happened here in the United States. If you do follow politics here, so we had the January 6th invasion of Congress. And then we
Right.
had the Gen Z invasion of Parliament,
Yes.
and but of the perception or reception that has been out there, and I don't want to be a judge to that, but there was some kind of similarities in between, in that there were citizens who decided to just wake up one day and go and protest and attack Congress, and similar manner that happened in Kenya. But there hasn't been, I guess, as much condemnation. Kenya is it that people feel that the masses in Kenya feel that they did the right thing, that they actually needed to go and kick these parliamentarians out of office, while we strongly have people here condemning. In fact, people have been jailed. People were prosecuted and jailed. What are your thoughts? With that too. I know they're probably, maybe not this.
Similar, right? Same difference.
Right.
I would really say this. I think the frustrations in Kenya have been a long time coming. People have been bottling up their frustrations, and it was only just a matter of time that they were to
Hmm.
explode. And I would assume that's the reason why Gen Zs have kind of been embraced during this thing that I or my generation and going, I don't know, or the former generations won't have possibly done. I mean, I know they raise concerns in different ways, like they would talk and be involved, but I don't think the Gen Z is living at a time and age where freedom and human rights are being exposed or are being embraced in different ways, where people it's my to question my government. So I'm going to wear that right on my sleeves and I'm going to question the government however I see fit. And I think that's the difference. The Gen Zs in Kenya are living at a time and period where all these things have become almost allowed and embraced,
Hmm.
as opposed to Kitambo Kidogo, people wouldn't necessarily go that route. And the difference I would put with the US situation, for me, it's the January 6th event almost had, to me, almost had no bearing other than the fact that it was a change of regime, right? It was,
Hmm.
I would want to call it unnecessary because it would not have happened had Trump really won the election. And on top
Hmm.
of that, they weren't particularly opposing or they were just opposing the regime that was about to take over, the Democratic president that was about to take over. And for me, I don't know how to categorize that adequately because it's almost uncalled for.
But,
That's what I want to call it. It's
but,
uncalled
but,
for.
but, but but it's kind of similar, because you're talking about trying to have a democratically elected regime to lead you after being elected. Well, that one was a few days after the elections, but nonetheless, the point is, um, there was discontent among a section of the population, and they took the same similar actions in terms of going to to protest, but not only protest but also invading parliament. But anyway, it's a
Yeah,
question, a right or
content
wrong answer
really,
to that.
right, but the discontent really leaning towards the particular individuals, or let's say like Mr. Biden and
Mhm.
First Lady Kamala Harris. Those were the frustrations really stemmed from the fact that it was more individualistic as opposed to a government that has just not cared. And I don't want to say the Kenyan government care. I just that the implement of all these cares and the necessities that people needed haven't been met with the quickness or with the necessary remedy that we would want.
So let me ask you this. Um, so there's that this agitation to have President Ruto resign. Um, well, first of all, there are these demands that were made by the Gen Zs, who, by the way, they say they have less, they're just some air out there that is just moving around. But anyway, um, so the president goes and dissolve cabinet, most of it, with the exception of one, and then reappoints a few back. And we have no way of knowing what area was drop some and bring some because there's a few, but the list is not even done yet. But it appears as though every action that the president is doing is only sort of gaslighting these Gen Zs and making them even more infuriated. Um, what do you think? Should, in your opinion, should President Ruto, because also is, he had a campaign, he had a platform he ran on, he had a manifesto he wanted to do, and all these kind of things. And he would argue, I've only been here for less than 2 years, guys. It takes time to plant a seed and let it grow so you can harvest. So are we being too unfair?
No, absolutely not. And I will say that
Mhm,
without even a doubt with me. People are afraid the swamp. I
mhm,
know you've heard it.
mhm.
Drain the swamp.
Right.
I grew up in Kenya. The same names that are running politics in Kenya today are the same
Mm.
names that were there 30 years ago, 40 years ago. I mean, what's going on? What's going on? So even if he says from the top of his lungs that I've only been in office for 2 years, yes, that is true. But you were also the president and you've been in office and holding official duties for majority of your time. So
But but
the things
but Ms. Wambua, these people did not impose themselves. These people were democratically elected. These people, you the citizens went and re-elected them. You are the problem. Why can't you citizens do an introspection and look at yourselves and say, we are the ones that elected these people. So why are you
this is what
blaming
we're doing
them?
now. This is what we're doing now. We've been sleeping, and truthfully so, for a long time, even the Gen Z, even the millennials, they weren't voting. I'll walk my
Right.
words a bit, but they weren't as involved in politics as they should have been. They left politics to their wazirs. They got to a point where I have my job, I'm secure, particular, knowing that politics will affect their businesses, their whatever entrepreneurships that they're trying to do, but they were so
Mm.
uninvolved, almost uninterested to a point. I
Right.
remember this past election, the Generation Z that was registered to vote was what, like $7 million that were registered, 7 million people that were registered, and then there was another majority that wasn't registered and they didn't vote. So all like middle of the generation that's out in on the streets did not vote. And maybe that could have been a turning point to elect a person who would have been more aligned to their needs and their cries or whatever. All that to say, maybe this is the calling or the cry that we needed to open our eyes and say, you know what, politics affects me in every way. Politics is not for my dad and the wazes out there in the bars or whatever. Politics all, and we want to say that, oh, I don't like to talk about politics. No, it's about time that we get more involved. If we want to see change, if we want to see things start working to our benefits, it's about time we get involved. But all that to say,
But
I'm still holding these people from 1992 accountable to what Kenya has become today.
but it can okay. So we have elections every 5 years. We just had 2 years. So all right, if you just woke up and you realized, oh man, we really have a bad government, then there's a process to get them out. So you
Yes.
wait for your. Of course, you can make the demands just like the demands are being made, and then you wait to see if those demands are being actualized. And then if they don't, and also based on the promises the government, this administration made, then you kick them out. You don't re-elect them. Having to demand that they step out halfway, midway, then that's also not very fair or democratic in the sense that there were, I don't remember what the numbers were, but I do, I mean, we all do know that they did the count and President Ruto won 200,000 votes over his next opponent, Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And so therefore, it's unfair and square game. So you lose, you wait, you come back again next time. But for some reason, now he's not being given. I mean, is it maybe perhaps, and I don't know whether this is what may have triggered the, that things were so bad for the citizens that they felt that they just can't wait until the term is over, that it has to happen now. And of course, we know it was through the finance bill, which was rejected eventually. But then now from there on, it has grown into now it was not opposing the finance bill, but now really wanting to have President Ruto lead a changing goalposts along the way by the Gen Zs. Would that be an accurate assessment of how things have evolved and therefore unfair to President Ruto?
I don't know if I would call it unfair, particularly.
Hmm.
And simply because, so I guess when you're speaking and garnering votes, you will say what you think the mass wants to hear, right?
Hmm.
So when you do make these promises and you say you're the hustler leader or you're for the hustlers or whatever, and then the hustlers turn around and they look at you, but you're hustling from the Unitro Parliament Nyayo house, we're able
Well,
to relate with you anymore.
hmm,
We
hmm,
got to a place that we couldn't relate to him because we're here looking at gas prices going up. But where
hmm,
are you? You're not in town to calm us down. In fact, I remember the exact day last year when people woke up and the gas price had shot up even more. But the president was on his way to the United States. I would have loved to see at that moment, because first of all, it was his first year anniversary in office. I would have loved to see him stay at home, stay in ground, give us a summary of what he's done so far the last 12 months, tell us, hey, this is what's happening, this is what's going on. We're not where I told you guys we're going to be, but we're working. Something. Give me something to calm me down. I don't want to wake up, find that the economy has shut up, and then you're nowhere to be found. It's almost like total from his citizens. So, no, I will
hmm.
not say it's unfair. I will simply say that he's being held accountable for the things that he promised. He promised the current generation that things are going to be better. He promised that. So let us see how he's bettered these things that he promised. Hey, I wasn't able to lower gas prices. And also, being that economy all over is actually great. But tell us, hey, I wasn't able to lower gas prices, or I wasn't able to do ABC of the things that I've promised. But hey, I've done E. Look, I accomplished E. So I'm still working to make everything else work. You will not tell us, give me your patience. Give me your patience. But when I turn around, I see you just meeting Tyler Perry. Why?
Mhm. Ask you this: there's some kind of an appearance that President Ruto is hustling out there. He's hustling, looking for money to come and bring the bacon home, so that his people can eat. And he's traveling to all these places. Of course, some people are not happy with what he's doing. But overall, there's that perception that from the outside, from the outside world, he's doing great. In fact, he's been welcomed and he's been hosted by even President Biden here recently, a couple months ago. He's been invited to Paris. He's been everywhere, and
Yes.
even
And I'm
even
not
within the continent, people
disregarding any
speak
of that.
highly.
And I know we want to make Kenya the hub for Africa. I'm not disregarding any of those things. But what I'm saying is that we're not relating to him. We can't relate to him. You are not going to go hustle for a basketball team or for sports to be more whatever, the Kenya to be the hub for sports or entertainment, whatever. But then your people are starving. Who has time to go entertain when they don't have food to feed their family? Bring up from home first. Tell us, hey, I'm working with engineers from wherever to improve our soils or to improve our cropping or to improve whatever the case, agriculture, to improve our own manufacturing businesses, the Kenya Meat
Mhm.
Commission, the whatever things that would work or had been working, or the things that are run down like Mumia's sugar. Those are the things that we see those first, as opposed to you going to tell us that you're bringing more entertainment to Kenya. Who's going to be there to be entertained or entertained?
Mhm.
Relate
Well,
to us.
it
Relate to
could
us.
be. It's all about strategy. It's about strategy. This is my strategy to bring fast. Let me make friends out there, and then these friends, they can come in and they can come and invest, and they can then grow the economy, and then because you said he's been in government, so maybe he a thing or two about government and how things work. And so now he's trying to change a different strategy. And so the only problem is we're not being patient to give him the time and the space, to be able to do it. But that's it. Let me ask you about this Gen Zs. I remember when the protests began. Uh, Interestingly, I don't know if this only personal observation, but it appeared as though it was the girl child who actually lit the first matchstick. And even the boy child wasn't there. Boy child started coming in a little bit, after that. What do you think? What was that? That somehow this girl child woke. She just woke up one day and she realized, man, I'm which is that need to come in. And like you said, prior to that, they appeared removed, disinterested, didn't care, politics for old people. What was this? What was this? Do you think that triggered this girl child to come? And quite frankly, the girl child has been at the forefront of this movement or these protestations and the noise. What is that about? Is that you be guess
It's in our
you
nature.
want because it's
No.
interesting. We've had demonstrations before. Even after President Ruto was elected, the opposition had protests and there were demonstrations and so forth, you hardly could see the girl child there. And the history, prior to that, it was really more of the boys. And we even find, low income neighborhoods and so forth and so on. But now this has advanced with girl child actually, you know, congregating in CBD at Uhuru Park and being very vocal about it. What do you think? What is this phenomenon that just
I think the
came?
best I can qualify it really is just a change of times, right? And we're living in an age where everybody has power, more so the people that felt that they didn't have that empowerment, which has been the woman child for a long time. We've always had to fight, even for the right to vote, the right to even get a credit card. I don't know. It's just, I feel it's a cascading, a domino effect of how the world is moving, right? To a point where if we don't step up, we
Hmm.
cannot wait for the male child to step up when he's tempered. Like
Hmm. Does this mean
if
maybe now we're going to get some more women? Because remember, even the Constitution, as a way of affirmative action, created these woman MP positions just so that even Parliament there can be sort of equal, but somehow meaningful representation of the woman, the Kenyan woman or the Kenyan girl child. Now, with this, because now it appears that you got it, the women got it, and there have been quite a few who have been very vocal and have been out there. So is this now at a time maybe to say now we're getting equal? The woman is coming up, able to stand on her own.
I think it's a good stepping point. It's a great stepping point, right? We're no longer sitting back and waiting for
Mhm.
things to happen for us or waiting for someone else to go fetch the things for us. I think we're becoming more involved, which is creating a lot more. It's bringing us closer to this equality that we want to be.
Mhm.
I'm not sure how to qualify it, but some of the women that I've looked up to, even Malala, the 16-year-old that wanted to go to school. It just takes a determination that, hey, this is it. I'm no longer going to sit in this place of frustration. I'm going to get up and I'm going to make my voice heard.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's exactly just what's happening. We've depended a lot on the men to know if they adequately get us. But I mean, it's human. Nobody's gonna get you however you want to be gotten. But when you put yourself out there, then maybe you can bring the awareness that you've been asking for all along. And that's what's
Mhm.
happening. So the issues have diversified from just taxation to, even as a woman, my needs as I live and I exist in a community, I want them to, and yes, because my contribution to my community and to my area is just as great as any man, you know?
Right.
And I think
Yeah.
that's
And
where
and
we just got.
and there was, especially on the issue of taxation and some of the items that the government was targeting were feminine products, which maybe I said maybe this was the thing that they said, no, you can't, you can, and because those are
Yeah,
very
because we,
personal.
we, we know the cost.
Right, right, yeah,
We know the
it's
cost. Like it's hard for a man to grasp for just
yeah,
that one particular thing, right? It's how is a
right,
guy supposed to go fight for you when he doesn't really know what the cost
right.
of what you're asking for is? So it's about time that we get involved because these things are affecting us too, right? I'm not gonna sit down and say, oh, well, they've lowered tax on bread. Meanwhile, they've added tax on the things that directly impact
Right,
me, right?
right. Yeah. Now let me ask you this. So what next? What is happening now? Because I mean, I was someone sent me a clip this morning. President Ruto was saying, enough is enough. You guys are making outrageous demands. We've met almost all of them, and yet asking for more. I have a government to run. I need the money to run that government. And then at the same time, as I was receiving those clips, I'm also receiving clips saying, Tukutane Tuesday. Tuesday is the day. So, so what next? What happens?
So
Is it
that's
a
been
stalemate?
the question of the day is now what? And what I'm about to say is what's making me as a diaspora out of touch, right? Because do I think the protests were necessary? Yes. Do I think they were premature? Absolutely. Because, for
Hmm.
instance, if we were to remove the sitting president from leadership,
Hmm.
who? Who's going to lead? Who did we
Hmm.
prepare? Who would be the torchbearer for what we want? I do think it's premature, but it's happened, so we're past that.
Hmm.
Are we willing to accommodate Ruto as he is
Hmm.
and hope that he's going to hear our cries? That's what happened. If you ask, I would think that it was a
Hmm.
really strong threat as, you know what, you're the president, but we have the voice. We're the people. So we want you to meet these demands because maybe next time we will not stop at just the cabinet ministers being
Hmm.
de-employed. We will stop at you also not being in the seat. So maybe that was a strong message that they
Hmm.
were passing. Maybe that's a strong message they wanted to pass to the government. Or maybe they have another
Hmm.
thing that we don't know about. I mean, I don't know. There's just been so many narratives being thrown around in the air. But at the end of the day,
Right.
we need to sit down and we need to actually be really thorough as to what we want. Heard
That's
once
that's that's
divorces their
really a big question because, as you
yeah.
say, there cannot be a vacuum. People have talked about all these possibilities or options that would be there. I don't think none of them appears to be practical, or if not practical, none of them appears to be a safe bet. Having President Ruto continue, but with those demands. But the problem is, or the appearance is, he does not seem to understand what your demands are, or what the Gen Zs are saying.
Really still?
Because I mean, because his reactions to those demands, like for example, you know, so the Gen Zs say you have to, for one reason or another. He says, okay, well, very well. And he dissolves it. And everybody says, good job, good job. Now let's sit and wait and see, who he's going to appoint. Then he appoints half of the people that he sacked, he brings them back again. Now, I don't know again what criteria or what informed him to bring them back. But then now that again makes the Gen Zs or the people think this is not, you dissolve these guys, send them home, and then just bring them back. There's 55 million Kenyans. I'm sure you can find 55, 23. I think the cabinet is only 23. I'm sure you can find 23 people from these 55 million people who can advise you on how to run government. So, it's like it's status quo. Things just, back
Went
to
back.
where they were. And so,
Well, I guess he's not really listening then. Maybe he hasn't learned. But I
mhm,
would imagine at this point, we want to get to a point where we're not bringing ourselves as Kenyans backwards, right? As
mhm,
we ask for all these changes, guess what's suffering? The economy is suffering. In fact,
mhm,
all the, what is it, tourism and all those people, they don't want to come anywhere near Kenya. They've
mhm.
said, guys, deal with us first. So we're losing. The cost of this what's going on, it's actually higher than what we're asking for, right? We're losing. We haven't even improved anything since all these things started, and we're still at a stalemate, right? And
Mm-hmm.
how, again, the allegory of the animal farm, right? The animals in the farm, they go, they protest, they unsit the pigs that were corrupt, whatever. They went into power. Guess what? They became
Mm-hmm.
victims of the same thing that they were against. Because truly,
Mm-hmm.
come on to Hannah. Let's say, for instance, things in Kenya have been so bad, people don't have food. Truly, what do you think the first thing would be when they get into that power? Of course, you're going to feed yourself and your
Right.
family and the people around you before you even think about the other
Mm-hmm.
person, right? So
Right.
I do think the move was necessary, but it was premature. And truly, if we don't want Ruto in leadership, him and his people all gotta go. But then who
Mm-hmm.
do you appoint next? Do we have people prepared? Do we have people that would lead us to where we want to be? But then also for the president, really, if you say that you're for the people, listen to what your people are telling you. They've told you, we don't want just from put them in office. We want you to vet these people, gauge their understanding and comprehension of the law, or how to lead people, or what their credential is, or even look, what did you do for the last 10 years that you were in leadership? And if it doesn't add up, don't bring these people back, because that's what's frustrating us, right? What different are they going to do from what they did before?
But
I don't know
the
how
way
far
politics
it is.
works is that if you're in my team and you're campaigning for me, and we are the ones who are having sleepless nights, and we're investing our monies and we're investing our resources and networks, then and we are the ones who are helping you craft your manifesto and your policies and all that, then obviously uh, we are the ones expected to be there implement to implement the policies that you're coming up with. And so those are the people. Those are the people that were helping him campaign to get his administration in government. And so he is. So why would you think he's going to go and look for other people elsewhere who had nothing to do with, who sacrificed nothing in going to hunt? It's like you and I go hunting, we check the deer, the hunt, and we get it. Then when we come to eat it, you say, "Well, just stay aside. Let me get somebody else who knows how to carve it." Well, hell no. I was part of this, and that's how it works. I mean, not just in Kenya, even in America, or even in any other countries. That's how it works. So why would you expect him to try and get somebody else outside? And somebody else, but who is maybe properly qualified. I mean, I guess maybe that's where he needs to be looking at and say, yeah, I know within the team that supported me, I can ask Zilani, I can ask so and so, I can ask because I know they're competent, they're people of integrity, they are, qualified, and so therefore they can, come in. That we were to see. But let me jump uh, into a question. I think, or would you agree that the issue really also should be laid square on Parliament? Because Parliament are the people who, one, they legislate, and then two, they are checks and balances of the presidency. So why are people mad at Parliament? Of course, they were, because they went and chased them away from. I don't know. They have come back to Parliament again, but but these are the people who make the laws of the country, right? If these people are making bad laws in the first place, that's where the rain starts to beat us. And then, two, when the president is being excessive in whatever form, it's in spending or whether it's in security, whatever the case is, Parliament is the person to check on the president. Why are people not, why are people giving these parliamentarians a pass? Because nobody seems to be mad at them.
I don't think it's a past person. I think this is how I would best interpret it, right? When we think corruption, things, we look at the biggest scandal yet, right? Like the Golden Bag. Was it the Golden Bag sacks or
Yeah.
whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things we look at. We don't ever look at the small roots that
Mm-hmm.
built up to bring it to this huge thing, right? And this
Mm-hmm.
is how I'd say it. For instance, when I think he was Governor Chuki implemented seatbelts and safety guards in matatus, right? That was a law
Mm-hmm.
that was for the benefit of the people. He had nothing to benefit from it, right? But what did I, as a Mwanainchi, do? Entered the matatu, did not buckle up. And then when the cops stopped us, we now feel inconvenienced.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow is just so inconveniencing that how dare the cops me from whatever big deal that I was going to, and now all of a sudden him telling me that I'm going to take you to the station or I'm going to give you a fine
Mm-hmm.
becomes a huge inconvenience, when at the first place the simplest of thing that I could have done was just buckle up and avoid all those things. So what do? I bribe him. After all, nikifika station sintalipa your fine, bribe atoke kwangu. That's where the root of corruption starts. Me, as a citizen, the law that is supposed to be for my good, I look at it, I put no value to it, I disregard it, and then tomorrow I will make a big deal about how this cop stopped me and I had to bribe him. So there is a disconnect. Nothing
So,
wrong with
so
the
in
laws that are
essence,
put in
again,
place.
so, so we are going in. I feel like we're going in circles, right? So
Listen, there's
we
nothing
are the
wrong that is
victims.
being put in place. It's just that our value to these laws, some of them we
Mhm.
value, some of them we do not. And that's just
That's what I'm
become this.
saying. So from what you're saying, we cry victim, all right, when it's convenient for us, but in the true sense, we're the perpetrators of this cycle, because we start by acknowledging that we ourselves we have poor values when it comes to doing right, doing following the law, doing the right thing, and then when it's an inconvenience to us, we point a finger at them and say, no, it's them, who are doing
Yes.
it. So then the others, so it goes around, but at the end of the day, it started from us. But then with the parliamentarians, because if you make bad law, for example, that bill, the finance bill that was rejected, people cried even before it got to the president. People cried and they were making noises, and they just went to the streets when it was now for the president to assent. It's a process. That bill travels before it gets to the president's desk. Now, these parliamentarians, okay, who were voting and passing this law, because that's their job, how are we holding them accountable? How are the citizens holding accountable? How? Because it's the same thing as basically saying, well, tutakungoja 5 years, and then we don't vote you back. They're saying anything. But for Ruto, people are saying, we won't even wait for 5 years. We just want you to go today. Again, my point about being unfair in terms of, him, people want him out today, but the parliamentarians who make these bad laws, because the country is governed by laws. It's a country of law and order. So why are we giving these guys a pass? Be able to recall them, or equally, ask all of them to resign, ask parliament to be dissolved, and we have another election, and so we have a new crop of, just the same way we are demanding for Ruto to resign.
I
You know,
mean, I think the phrase I would use is drain the swamp.
but they're all this one. They're all of them are in, as the parliamentarians.
Everybody,
They are all
their mother, their
part
son,
of this.
everybody got to go. You and your cattle and your sheep and goats, we need to
Mhm.
start over, basically. But the idea of starting over really is cumbersome. And how? How are we even supposed to start over?
And that's a big question, because there are those of the thought that no, you can't let things go. The country, things are rough, they're tough, but look, we're still better than others. This is now, when you're comparing yourself with your neighbors, and you say, but I'm still taller than my neighbor, as bad as you think I am. And also those who also, and I've seen, out there in the media, people who say, no, you don't want to ban your country and bring it down. You know how much
Yeah.
it's going to cost to bring it up. And you look at countries like neighboring countries like Somalia, where I think the people agitated for Siad Barre to leave, and he left. And then that country has never been the same, since then.
And that to me would be my biggest concern, right? I was gonna
Hmm.
say, I heard somebody say the first divorce is the hardest, but then after that, the second one, the third one, they become easier. All that to
Uh-huh.
say, the first thing that Kenya has done probably was the
Hmm.
most. Someone else is going to get in leadership, and within a year we decide, it's not working for us, let's do it again. It's gonna, we don't want to render Kenya into a place of moving backwards when it's a country that has been moving forward for so long. So that would be my biggest concern.
Hmm.
What's the right answer for all of this?
Hmm.
Get rid
Hmm.
of everybody, then we appoint people that we know, or out of, we Vumilia what's going on and say to him, hey, we need these changes implemented,
Hmm.
but we're willing to work with you, but just listen to us. And then if the person who's not working, you take him out. What do we need to do? The concern here is just rendering Kenya into like civil unrest, or some of the things that some African countries have had to endure for a long time. We're better
Hmm.
than that. We deserve better than that. So listen to what your people are saying. Make laws
Right.
that you value the human right and the human dignity. I don't
Hmm.
know how you can make a law that's supposed to engender your citizen and then also it be oppressing at the same time. So exactly where is the disconnect? Is it the laws are just have become unfair, or are we at a place that they are necessary for us to move forward to the next?
Hmm.
Taxation has become, what about taxation are we not getting? Is it that people just aren't at the capacity to accommodate all these higher taxes? Or are these taxes really necessary for the next phase of Kenya? What is it? What do we need to do?
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that's the dilemma, and of course, it's a delicate, fluid times in. Now, of course, again, we're here in the diaspora. We, in some kind of way, shielded, or in some safe room with AC and light, and everything seems to be working. So what do we know? For all that those ones on the ground care. But I think it's a discussion that we should continue to have. A lot more that the diaspora, we as diasporans, can do. Of course, we have been doing our part in terms of helping families back home, trying to do investment here and there, connecting people back home to other people here or institutions and things like that. I think we need to continue doing that. But obviously, it does help when, while that is happening, that also that those at home are doing the right thing, because then that's how we're able to be energized, and we're able to, continue connecting with our home, with our motherland. So,
You know,
anyway.
just
Hmm.
thinking about it, sorry, the quickest thing that would
Hmm.
help ease all these tensions is, first of all, the Kenyan government, however, and I'll say it to the end of the world, it's very bloated. Why do we need all those officials that are being paid that a salary on top of whatever else they get
Benefits. Yeah.
just for being in that position? Why don't we say, tutakata mshahara, where you shouldn't get a pay and then also your kids go to school, your house is paid for, you have cleaners, allocate it somewhere else. There's something that I learned when I came to this country. I interned at the Civil Center for my little city in California. And I caught wind that the mayor makes $200 a month. A
Hmm.
whole mayor for the city makes $200 a month. I couldn't
Hmm.
comprehend that. I was like, but he's the mayor. He's Mwashimiwa. How could he? Now I think that's how politics in Africa, not just Kenya, in Africa needs to be run. We cannot have people in leadership that don't even show up for parliament meetings making more than Biden. It
Hmm.
doesn't make sense. So, if I were ideally to give any advice to the Gen Z, I would say let's demand cuts. Make this job so unattractive that people don't feel the need to go. Make Yeah, when you hear, oh, they don't pay, the government doesn't pay, make it that way so that actually when they go there to work, they're working and they're earning their living just as I and you are earning our livings. We have to show up, Attorney Apande.
Hmm.
We have to show up. We have
But
our clients
but you have to
license.
attract. Yeah, but you still have to attract. I mean, I think I agree with you in terms of
It's
the
too attractive. It's
viewing.
far. Some of the qualified people, you bring somebody from, he used to be a comedian. All of a sudden, he's now. Maybe I shouldn't
Yeah.
go that route. Maybe I don't want the Kenyans on Twitter to
Well,
find me.
democracy, democracy is about the numbers. So at the end of the day, nothing stops you from running for public office. Again, these people are elected by their fellow citizens, and that's
No,
how
but
they
the
made it.
public offices, how much these people should make. No, you're not going to burden us with tax so that you and your family can go to private schools. Pay for the private school just as I want to pay for the private school, you know. Yes, you
Right.
should have a salary for what you do. I just think that for a government that is, for a country that is as small as Kenya, it's far too outrageously bloated. We do not need all those people. What do they do? What have they
Hmm.
done? That's been, so if you're gonna go in there, we will say, you, like the MCs, you make this much.
Right.
The governors make this much. You don't need to.
And I think it's there. I mean, they do have the commission that takes care of that. However, there should be they should legislate. Again, of course, this has to come from Parliament again, and review those acts, remuneration, and tag it, and then also make it performance based. I mean, I do know there's that notion that officers in government, they sign performance contracts, but I don't know how they are reviewed. I mean, in fact, just the other day, President Ruto was talking about how he was addressing his cabinet, and he was actually telling them how he thinks they don't put them there. And so, if he's the one who's doing the review of their job, and he's not comfortable with their performance, then why should they be there? And
Well,
I don't know whether he put them
he
in.
did say they're the ones that are, they, like, for instance, well, you give an example of these people have been with him, campaigning with him, so it's almost like,
Right.
why won't they be there? But if you're gonna put other perks that you're handing out, really, it's, that's how leadership has to have dignity and integrity. It's not just about, hey, thank you so much. Hii kitu ya Kenya tunanunulianga watu chai, buying tea. It's gotta go. That's what's rendered us to where we are. Lazima umshukurani na tea. All of a sudden the tea becomes 1,000, 4,000. It's gotta go.
Yeah. Anyway, we are at the crossroads. I think it's if we embrace it like we should. Change is always difficult. Change is never easy, and for many are in a comfort zone. They don't want to be messed. They don't want to be moved. They don't want to change and so forth. And I think that's part of the that probably President Ruto is having, because he doesn't know how to change. He doesn't know how to change, bring these changes that the people are demanding or people are asking, because it's just not easy. It's not easy to change. But the moment I think he will be able to do it, then I think he'll be in the right. I know we've been excuse me, we've been here for about an hour. I know. Maybe perhaps I'm just gonna give you a 30-second pattern shot as to all this that you've said. We're supposed to have the other people to join us, and are having traveling problems, and looks like we may have to do another series where we can continue the conversation, and especially get to hear from who was supposed to join us, my good brother Henry Ongeri, and my sister Nyabisi Onsongo, and our host, who is stuck at the airport, Dr. Okari. But let me give you 30 seconds to give you a parting shot as we wind down.
Well, I would always say this, that there's a lot of, just as we speak.
Guess well, before you give your parting shot, so let us just maybe say hello to our real host, who is he? Dr. Okari, good to see you. We had a very, very robust discussion here with my dear sister Nzilani, and we almost forgot that we were just two of us. But we were suggesting that maybe another series where, because we also missed the other participants who are supposed to join us. And then kind of have the discussion. I mean, there's a lot still going on back in Kenya as regards to this political situation going on. So I'm sure there'll be more to talk about. But I had a wonderful company of Attorney Nzilani, and she has a book about how she thinks of what's going on back in Kenya. But I welcome you, Dr. Okari, and sorry for the inconvenience that you've endured, but glad to see that you are safe and sound. It has been problematic the last few days with the airlines, so I totally understand what you're going through. But go ahead.
Yeah, so again, thank you very much, Mr. Host. I think actually I've been listening in from the airport. I did listen in, not surprised, but out of respect of our viewers, may I say sincere apologies. I got stuck down there in Texas, my friend. Yesterday I missed a flight, and then hoping that I could get home to my beautiful studio here to run the show. That didn't work well. And then we got to the Minneapolis International Airport. Kind of there was a thunderstorm, and therefore we couldn't disembark. And then, driving all the way from the airport to home. Yeah, and I was listening to both of you, so to our viewers, and of course the two of you, my sincere apologies. But again, doesn't surprise me, especially having Attorney Nzilani. She's, if you didn't know more about her, she's incredibly intelligent. She's a great resource, not just with the CUSPA, the legal fraternity, but I think a great asset for the Kenyan diaspora. I think is one person we will be looking to have on the show, and of course leading the next generation of Kenyans abroad, and particularly tech. Of course to you as well. A good brother of mine, incredible work. I listened to everything actually. Thank you for doing this. Apologies also from Wakili Ongeri. I just talked to him moments ago. He was trying to log in, had technical difficulties. Apologies. And also, of course, BC Shio too got herself in church and couldn't. And of course, President Shiori, she is also watching right now. So apologies to our viewers and the two of you, but I think you held your own. We appreciate you. So maybe just a quick, time is out just to say, of course, we're going to have another segment. With all due respect to our panelists, probably we might work behind the scenes in the next week or two. We can have this again. And again, just a quick update for those who are watching this live and later is that we do have 12 series. So last week we just had an introductory part of it. Today we're talking about the legal issue, focusing on the legal system in Kenya. Next time, obviously, we'll encompass others from Kenya. And then we also have next week the Gen Zs. So the younger people will be speaking here live. And then week after that, we'll dissect the Kenyan educational system, which in my view, I think it works and it's also a contributory factor to what's happening in the streets. And then after that, we'll dive into government structure and good governance, because we'll have very good expert discussion, analysis, and opinions. We'll look into the infrastructure. We'll look at the role of the diaspora specifically on shaping the future of our nation. So we have 12 series sponsored by KDL TV and, of course, the umbrella organization, One Voice Consortium. So that, of course, we'll work on that in the weeks to come. And just a reminder again that I was in Kenya for a month and a half, and the ground really is not very good. We need to shape our country, even if it's from afar. Somehow, in our small but valuable ways, we need to make a good contribution so that we leave a better Kenya for the next generation. I think that will be from me. Then hand back to the host for today, Laban Opande.
Thank you, Dr. Okari. Wonderful. Welcome to America again.
Thank you.
So we were just winding down as you came in, and thanks for the update of things that are lined up. And hopefully, as you said, we'll have the on on the other portion of the attorneys who missed to come in. So we'll work on that. But I was giving my sister Nzilani to just kind of recap his parting shots as we were winding down. And then I'll also give my 2 seconds of thought, and then we shall be winding down for today's program. Sister Nzilani.
Yeah, Dr. Jeremy, good seeing you again. But all I was going to say is that there is a lot of hope for Kenya. I think that this is just a starting part that we've wanted to see for a long time. And whenever these changes happen, I think sometimes they can take a lot out of people. But I do think that there's a lot of hope. And I think Kenya has a great future ahead of it. It's just that we have to see cemented or whatever we're asking for. We have to see it through, but in reasonable and safe ways. We don't want to just, make the country not what it used to be. But there's hope. I would say that there's a lot of hope, and I'm excited to see what Kenya is going to look like very soon.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Sister Nzilani Wambua. You've been looking forward to further engagement. And from my end, I wish to thank everybody. I wish to also say that this is that moment that all of us have to stand up to the call, do our part to make sure that our country moves forward. Now, there is that thing that comes at some point. Some people call it a revolution. People call it a new dispensation. But whatever it is, I think it's that moment that has reached now. So we as diasporians, I think much is expected from us as well in supporting this cause, because it's that moment that will define what our children will inherit, and our grandchildren and great grandchildren. And we certainly want to make sure that we found it. And so, with that, I want to thank everybody who watched and listening. I want to thank the host, Dr. Kari, and KDR TV, as well as the umbrella organization, the One Voice Consortium, the wonderful job they're doing in bringing together the people in the diaspora and uniting them and having them these kinds of engagement and discussions for the betterment of our country. The afternoon or evening or morning, wherever you'll be. Until we meet again next time, God bless you. Thank you.
Good.